Hi everybody, it's the Gregarious Giggler here, and today I'm coming to you to talk about men. Sort of.
They buy you dinner, open your door. Other than that, what are they good for, men?
Happy New Year, everybody! It's a new year, and I have lots to talk about. But today, the main topic on my agenda is a topic that has bothered me on multiple levels for a long time now, and I want to get to it today because I can't wait. Transgenderism. Seems like this topic has been catching on like wildfire lately. Every day there's a new study, a new statistic, a new interview, a new book, a new child. There are so many places to start, so let's start at the beginning. What is transgenderism? It's a mental disorder. Hence the reason its scientific name is gender dysphoria.
So, remember how we talked about transgender a while back?
Yeah.
What is transgender?
It's when you're either a boy or a girl and you decide, hey, I don't like being I don't like being a boy or a girl. So they transform themselves into a boy or a girl.
We'll get back to those kids in the dysfunctional family that they're being raised in a little bit later. But yeah, that little girl pretty much summed it all up for the rest of us. Gender dysphoria is more or less when a biological male or a biological female gets tired of playing that role and decides to become the opposite sex. Even though you can never actually become the opposite sex, because that's scientifically impossible. I'll get to the whole God and sin thing a little bit later, because that's a huge element in all of this. But for now, let's focus on strictly scientific facts, since most people only rely on science, even though God is the creator of all, including science. But we'll get to that later too. Before I get way down in the minutiae and details of all of this, I want to say at the offset, I respect every person out there, and this vlog is not coming from a place of hate, but rather from love. We're all God's children, and we should love everyone. Having said that, I'm going to explain why we as a society are loving these people in the wrong way. There's a new trend in our society. It's been going on for a couple of decades now. Parents just allowing their children to do whatever the hell they want because they don't think children need discipline. They think that being their own person is what's really important. Well, metaphorically and literally, the mental patients have taken over the asylum, or in this case, the children have become the voices of knowledge.
And I'm transgender.
Today, parents are giving their children hormone blockers to stop puberty, to prevent them from becoming what God, or if you prefer the word nature, have intended them to be. Simply because when they're 3 years old, they go to their mommy and say,
But my kid at 3 said, everyone thinks I'm a girl and I'm not. And then I said, however you feel is fine. And then Penelope said, no, I don't feel like a boy, Mama. I am a boy. That's as clear as it gets.
Right, so was this before or after your 3-year-old said that they were Batman and they could fly? Because I'd love to see the video of that conversation. Oh, you're Batman? Oh my God, honey, our child is Batman and he can fly. He said he can fly. This is what we're gonna do. I'm so excited that you can fly. I have faith in you that you can fly. I'm gonna take you up to the top of our roof and I'm gonna have you jump off of it so that you can show me and the rest of the world that you can fly. I'm getting a little too excited. I want the whole world to see that I am the proud parent of a trans superhero. I want everybody to see that I stand with my child and I believe in him or her, whatever pronoun he or she wants to be called, because they know better. They know best. They're 3 years old. Here's a problem that I have with this warped sense of why a 3-year-old knows best. Aside from the obvious illogical fact that 3-year-olds know nothing about the world yet, so it's totally absurd, ridiculous, and ignorant to imagine that a 3-year-old would know better than his own parents or her. Aside from all of that, here's a clip of somebody suggesting that abortion should be legal up to the age of 2.
And I gave you the example of the last student we talked to who said it was okay up until 2, and
I'll buy that.
you think that's
The fact of
reasonable
the
up
matter
until 2?
is, if without communication, we have no way of knowing if you're sentient or not. I mean, it's no different than this tree. It's alive, but is it sentient? I don't know. I cannot communicate to it.
It's communicate with, not to.
And to compare with a 2-year-old is kind of tough. I mean, just being the tree 2-year-old analogy.
Can the 2-year-old talk to me? Can the 2-year-old talk to me? In some instances, I'm fairly certain that is.
In some instances, I'm fairly certain that is. That makes no sense. You're at a university! Oh my god, you don't speak English!
But generally speaking, the child will still have the inability to communicate. And until we determine as such at what point does sentience become an issue, we can't really debate on whether or not that is the situation or not.
And until we determine that as such, are you related to Miss South Carolina by any chance?
I believe that our education, like such as in South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere like such as.
And until we determine as such at what point does sentience become an issue, we can't really debate on whether or not that is the situation.
He does have a point. Now seeing how stupid one can become later in life, I'm thinking he's making a very good argument for abortion. Maybe his parents should have aborted him so that we wouldn't have to endure such suffrage by listening to him. So, let me get this straight. At 2 years old, you're not sentient. You don't have the knowledge or voice of reason yet. But in only 1 year, you can determine what sex you are. You can determine in 1 year's time from being non-human to being somebody who can philosophically, existentially, and without a reason of a doubt, make a life decision for the rest of your life that's going to affect every aspect of the rest of your life because you're now 3. And in 1 year, you have gained more knowledge than most of us have by the time we're 50. I'm trying to understand the logic here. So even if you don't believe that a child can be killed or aborted or whatever word you want to use by the time they're 2 years old, people nowadays believe that you can abort children while they're in the womb, even up to 9 months. Maybe not most people, but a lot of people believe that you can abort children up to 9 months in the womb. They are not people yet, according to the people who believe you can abort them. You can abort babies when they're 6 months in the womb, 5 months, 4 months. At what point do they become so wise and sage by the time they're 3 that they can determine the rest of their life? Every aspect. Work, romance, sex life, friendships, everything. Pronouns, everything. If I had gone to my mother and said, "Mommy, I'm a boy," she would have said, "Lisa, go color something." Instead, today we have parents who say, "I had to really listen to my child because this was serious what they were saying to me." No. Your child is 5 and they don't know that taxes exist. Do you really think they know the difference between being a boy and a girl? These are phases that children go through. The other thing that we have to keep in mind is that when you're a child, you are extraordinarily impressionable. So one thing that I want to touch on with this whole making your child believe that they really are the opposite sex. When you are a child and you believe something to be true, and if your parents encourage you in that way, that becomes a norm for you. So if a 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7-year-old goes to their parents and says, "Mom, I know I was born a girl, but I'm really a boy," the parents have an option. They can either say, "No, you're not," or "Yes, you are." And either way, if they continue down that road in the next several years, which are also still very impressionable for a child, that child is going to consider whatever the parents are telling them as the norm. And if they do continue down that road and into their adulthood without their parents having encouraged them in that way, then there really is something mentally wrong with them. But if you're a 6-year-old and you say, "I'm a boy," that's just the fanciful idea of a 6-year-old, and you laugh it off. You don't sit down and have a discussion with your 5-year-old over their plans of chopping off their genitalia. So that by the time they're 14, 15, 16, they've been growing up all these years thinking that because their parents have encouraged them with this fanciful idea of their 5-year-old self, that this really is the reality of the situation. And sometimes I think kids might even be scared to go ahead and say, you know what, I think I made a mistake when I was 5. Because by then, if their parents believe it to be true too, then they're really starting to think that, hey, I really am transgender.
Yeah, said to me, I don't like my body. I don't feel right in my body. And I said, well, you know, what do you mean? I said, I think I started off on a tangent and said, oh, well, you know, lots of kids feel that way. And it's, you know, it's normal to feel all weird in your body, and your body's growing and all of those sorts of things, completely jumping to the wrong conclusion. And she said, no, I feel like I'm a girl. I'm in the wrong body.
This was within weeks of their son Campbell turning 10.
I just said to my mum that I didn't want to be a boy. I felt like a girl, and that I'm sick of living in this body.
Was it making you sad?
A little.
We'd had conversations. Campbell, he may end up being gay when he grows up, and, you know, we're kind of prepared for that. Had these sort of little images of, you know, standing with a rainbow flag, and, you know, I was all for it. It was going to be great.
So right away, here's a problem. These parents are fantasizing about their child becoming gay in the future. They saw signs, they saw effeminate gestures, what have you, but they were slowly preparing themselves that in the future he was going to be gay. What did the mother say? We were imagining ourselves standing there with the rainbow flag and it was going to be great. This is where we're at. I mean, why would you want your child to be gay? I've heard from that community for years now that you would never want that lifestyle for your children, would you? Because it's just an awful thing to want to put on your children. Here are these parents, and they're excited about the fact that they're going to be marching in a parade with their gay son. And instead of being gay, he ended up being transgender.
When Isabel told me that night, Andrew and I sort of said, why couldn't she have just been gay? It would have been a lot easier.
I didn't really know there was anything to do about it. I started looking up things.
Where did you look them up?
Just on the internet. I just looked up what to do if you feel like a girl, and I found all these websites, and they were saying that you're able to get special surgery and that you can actually come out that way.
Okay, problem I have number 2. What parent is allowing their 10-year-old to get online and start researching transgenderism, finding websites where they talk about having surgery done to remove your, as Austin Powers would say,
my wedding tackle.
I'm sorry.
My meat and 2 veg, my twig and berries. Hello, lad. You still awake?
I mean, what parent would let their child be researching this on the internet? Either he's doing it alone, which is still bad parenting, because what parent would allow their children to be on the internet alone, unsupervised? And furthermore, I'm sorry, I don't believe that a 10-year-old is capable of researching that kind of heavy material on their own. It's the parents who are helping them research this and look things up and telling them, yes, let's research how you can cut off your penis someday. Joyful topics to be discussing with your 10-year-old son.
How hard would it be if you had parents that didn't support you?
If that actually happened, I'd probably have run away by now or killed myself.
The fact that a 10-year-old is saying that they would have killed themselves is a pretty clear indication that they need psychiatric help. It is not normal for a 10-year-old to be suicidal or have suicidal thoughts. Never mind the fact that the 10-year-old thinks they were born in the wrong body. It's wrong. They need help. And the fact that the parents is to promote hormone blockers, to stop puberty, to stop testicles from descending, to stop facial hair from growing, to stop their voice from breaking, to stop any trace of masculinity from appearing in this little boy, is child abuse.
So, Isabel, do you have any questions for me?
How does the hormone blockers work?
That is a very good question. Now,
Isabel's anxious to start the first stage of her medical treatment, puberty blocking hormones.
Now, the good thing about this drug is it gives you time to think about what you want to do in the long term without you having to worry about your voice dropping or getting hairy or any of those sorts of things. If you decided a couple of years' time, so you're 11 now, say you were 13, 14 or 15, and you thought, you know what, I don't want to be a female, I'm going to go back to being Campbell, then we can stop the Zoladex.
That won't happen.
No, you know, I don't think that will happen either. But if it does, and it's really important to know that you can make this decision, if it does happen, we can stop this drug and your body goes back to how it would have been with no long-term consequences.
I mean, I'm sorry, but how sad is this that a doctor, a physician, is having to explain all these things to an 11-year-old little boy? But it is sad that this physician has to tell the child, you know, if you decide not to be a little girl anymore, if you want to go back to being a little boy. What kind of a crazy world, crazy Twilight Zone have we entered into?
I'm just a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania.
So another common theme that I'm seeing here is that these children are saying they only wanted to dress up in girls' clothes. They were always wearing girls' costumes, mermaid outfits, fairies, Cinderella, what have you. Where are they getting these clothes? I mean, are they stealing them from the store? Or is someone maybe bringing them to them? The only people who are bringing them these outfits are their parents!
Well, first of all, my son, when my child was who we thought was our son.
This is just great. We thought he was our son. We were fooled by the penis.
He always wanted to play the game mermaid from a very young age, and my husband would say, you know, Samuel, why don't you play Aquaman? And Sam had no interest in playing Aquaman, and I typed into the internet, my little boy likes mermaids, and there were about 800 pages of links to the fact that many transgender boys fixate on mermaids at a young age.
Let's see here. My little boy likes mermaids. Well, on my Google search, I'm getting 16 pages, not 800, so might have been a bit of an exaggeration on her part.
So I had this inkling in my head, oh my, this could be a possibility. And I kept myself open-minded.
But probably only open-minded to transgenderism. Nothing else like, maybe this is just a phase, maybe children are children and they like to play pretend.
Used to dress up like a woman.
What?
We used to dress up in Mom's clothes all the time.
What are you talking about?
The big hat, the pearls, the little pink handbag.
Okay, you are totally making this up.
How can you not remember? You made us call you B?
Oh, God.
Until it came to the point where through his sobbing, he literally was tearing at his own body in hatred, in extreme hatred. And around this time, he refused to look in the mirror. And he also, at this time, he was 4 years old. He told both myself and my husband that he wanted to burn his face off.
All right, so I'm already dubious about this lady, and I don't believe everything that she's saying, but let's pretend for a moment that what she's saying is factual and that this little boy was tearing at his body out of hatred. Take him to a psychiatrist. Why is that the only reason this kid wants to burn his face off? Look, I am not trying to diminish the fact that this is a very serious issue and that this child is seriously mentally disturbed. He wants to inflict bodily harm to himself. Similar to, chopping off your testicles and penis later in life. But maybe there's another reason he wants to burn his face off. Maybe he's psycho. Maybe he thinks he's ugly. Maybe you read him a bedtime story that had some sort of a character in it that burned its face off. We don't know the whole story because we don't live with these people, and everything that they tell us is supposed to be gospel.
Gender and Family Project at the Ackerman Institute, which is headed by an extraordinary gentleman named Jean Melba. He's Belgian and gracious and gentle and calm. He helped my husband and I through it, and he met Samuel and helped Samuel. And Jean never impressed anything upon Sam or upon me and my husband.
Oh, I'm sure he didn't. That's why he's at a gender clinic.
And he said, watch your son and listen to your son and take your guidance from your child.
This is my favorite part of this whole diatribe that this woman is espousing. Take your guidance from your child. Oh, okay. Honey, you're 4 years old. Do you want to drive the car? Because I trust your judgment more than mine. You clearly know better than I do because obviously you know what body is better than the other for yourself. Honey, you're 4 years old. Why don't you cook dinner tonight? Play with the matches, light the stove, light the whole house on fire. We trust your judgment better than ours because we're not in charge anymore. You are.
Can you talk a bit more about how this process has helped you psychologically?
It's liberated me from the hurt, because if I'm 6 years old, I don't have to think about adult stuff. I still drink coffee and drive a car, right? Even my tractor, but I still drive the tractor as a little kid. I drive my car as a little kid. And in my mind, because we don't see ourselves, we look out your eyes, right? So in my mind, I'm a girl. I was never allowed to be a little girl. So I'm filling that tank of little girl experiences. And so when I came today, I want to wear this dress because...
He's 52 and male and thinks he's a 6-year-old little girl. And he drives a snowplow. Shouldn't somebody be calling the child labor laws? But he would ever hire a 6-year-old girl to run a snowplow. I mean, they're sucking us into this vortex of insanity. I don't understand how anybody can take this stuff seriously.
Man has sex change to become lesbian.
Mom.
Yes, dear.
I have a vagina.
Hallelujah.
I guess what you say is true.